Debate, Senator Brazo.
Merci, Madame.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
At the age of 15, I got my first summer job. It was for the National Capital Commission. I was hired to pick up garbage with a pick and a garbage bag, and I took care of the flower beds on Parliament Hill and the surrounding areas. Every day I got to come to work that summer, I felt privileged to work on Parliament Hill because I was in awe of the structure and what went on within those walls. It was also the summer of 1990 where we witnessed another crisis, the Oka crisis, where we had non-Indigenous men, investors, wanting to build a golf course on a traditional Mohawk burial site. This crisis of 1990 forced the Conservative government of the day to send in the military after a request from the provincial Quebec government. I have seen and participated in many peaceful protests and have witnessed many different protests in front of Parliament Hill over the years from people across the political spectrum. But what we have witnessed in the past weeks is anything but a protest. What seemed like a protest quickly became an occupation, which quickly became an illegal occupation. Paralyzing the city of Ottawa and its residents is something we have not seen before, not in Canada. We saw individuals posing as Indigenous peoples, including several organizers. Now, I do not know for a fact if these people are Indigenous or not, but what I do know is that many Indigenous peoples across the country and organizations have denounced the cultural appropriation being exercised by some of these individuals. We saw how reporters were harassed and in some cases not able to do their jobs, chanting fake news towards reporters who are part and parcel of our democracy. Reporters being spat on. We have witnessed more interest in US media making absolute false statements about what is really happening in Canada. The amount of misinformation is pervasive because it affects us all. Other high-profile individuals throughout the world have associated Canada's Prime Minister to Hitler. How infantile can grown man be? This is where we are, and it's very scary. Are we moving forward or taking a few steps back? Well, time will tell. We have witnessed also the partisanship between different levels of government and the leaders of every political party throughout the country. We have witnessed jurisdictional wrangling between the federal, provincial, municipal governments and law enforcement. Now, as an Indigenous person, and I'm certain most Canadians have witnessed the complete and differential treatment of lawful, peaceful Indigenous protests versus what we have seen this past month in Ottawa and other parts of the country. Now, what message does this send? How do you think 1.5 million Indigenous people feel in this country after watching this unfold? After watching our CMP officers shake hands and hug with the non-Indigenous protesters? I have never seen that happen to any Indigenous person in Canada, and it's shameful. Individuals with racist behaviors, people spitting on reporters, anarchists, truckers, and people who just simply participated with the thought that they were taking part of history. I never thought I would see white nationalists and supremacists anywhere in the streets of Canada. I thought these were American problems. The United States has their share of problems and seem to want to permeate our country with their problems. I don't know about you, colleagues, but I have never seen so much US traffic and correspondence, emails, phone messages, and in fact, I've received more US-related correspondence in 1 week than I have in the last 13 years here. And I find that concerning. Finally, we have witnessed politicians support this occupation. Support the truckers is what was said. Well, we all know that there were more than truckers, more than just vaccine mandates, more than unhappy people with the current government that was at play. It was an attempt to overthrow the government, and it should not matter what government is in power. When there is an attempt to overthrow the government, we should join together and put democracy in action. No liberal, no conservative, NDP or Green, or no independent should ever wish for this to occur in their country, regardless of who is in power. Because Canadians choose our leaders by way of elections. And we just had one 4 months ago. Canadians spoke Unfortunately, the Emergencies Act has been invoked for the first time. The House of Commons and the Senate of Canada are asked to vote on whether the invocation of the Act was justified. It is difficult to know with certainty if this was necessary at this point. Fact is, no one knows with certainty exactly what happened because we do not have the facts before us. If there was foreign interference, financial or otherwise, what were the purposes of the occupation? If there was involvement by political parties, if the Ottawa police was perhaps compromised. After all, the Ottawa police chief had to step down as a consequence of the illegal occupation in Ottawa. We are not aware of the potential jurisdictional issues that may have hampered quicker action. With all these unanswered questions, one thing is certain, however. Under the Act, there will be answers to the many questions Canadians have with respect to why this occupation occurred and why it lasted so long. Until then, perhaps we should all stop trying to be experts and delving into the hypotheticals of why and how this occurred. I have faith in my country, and I have faith that we will all get the answers. And ultimately, as it always is the case, it will be Canadians who will learn the facts and decide for themselves if this invocation of the Act was necessary for our collective security, or if it was done so as a partisan abuse of power. So until we have all the facts, I invite you to take stock of what happened and to respect another aspect of our democracy, which is due process. And rather than creating further divide, let us take a step back and let justice do its work. Under the Act, and if passed, an investigation or inquiry must be undertook to seek all the facts and will have to be reported back to Canadians in about a year. So, colleagues, that's why I will be supporting the Act, but wish we were not at this point. The House adopted the Act by a vote of 185 in favor versus 151 against. Now, we are not here to rubber stamp anything, but I will be supporting the Act because by doing so, it will bring the checks and balances needed to try and get to the bottom of what occurred. And speaking for myself, justice, due process, and patience will shed light on facts in a non-partisan way. Partisanship is partisanship, but continuing to play partisan games at this time is not helpful for anyone. Let's come together as Canadians to support and defend our democracy. Even with all its failures and inaction by the federal government, and in particular, its treatment of Indigenous peoples throughout history, Canada is still the best country in the world. Respect is clearly lacking in today's politics. Perhaps social media is partly to blame, but politics is becoming very divisive and full of smears. As parliamentarians, it is our job right now to put that partisanship aside and fight against any type of hate. Canadians have every right to see us working cooperatively to get facts, not hearsay. This is not time to take cheap shots or settle political scores. This is the time for this chamber to rise above petty political tricks and consider only the needs of Canadians without regard to political stripe. And so, Madam Speaker, I want to remind Canadians of who we are and of our collective values and convictions. We are a peaceful, strong, generous people. We work through our problems together in good faith and will. Life can be short, colleagues. We have one life to live. Perhaps our time would be more useful trying to get along rather than creating divide. Those who have fueled, supported, participated, or used this as a political tool will not be on the right side of history. Choices in life come with consequences, and freedom always comes with a price. It is alarming but not surprising how some people support illegal occupations, but quickly condemn legal, peaceful, and rightful protests that have occurred in Canada. So I would like to take the time to thank all those involved that made Ottawa boring again and have given the citizens of Ottawa their city back. Because Ottawa is also my home, also the home of the Algonquin Nation. So in the end, I offer to you, colleagues, that the most powerful freedom fighter is democracy. Everyone has a job to do, so let's get to work and do our part. All my relations, Kichi Miigwech, merci.